Latecomers are certainly always welcome to join us. So this evening, I'd like to introduce Crystal Cobb. Crystal is our current District 45 Public Relations Manager. And I have to say, as District Director, she's a total joy to work with. And Crystal is very hardworking. She took this job on in halfway through the year and has certainly risen to the occasion. She's an asset to me personally, to the senior leadership team, and to all of District 45. Crystal joined Toastmasters in 2016 and hasn't looked back. She's passionate about helping others learn and grow. Crystal lives on Prince Edward Island and is a charter member of the Charlottetown Toastmasters Breakfast Club. This evening, Crystal is going to discuss Speechcraft and how Toastmasters International has created a new digital experience for both the coordinator and the participants. Please help me welcome Crystal Cobb as she presents Speechcraft, the digital experience. The digital experience, Crystal Cobb.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and welcome to all in attendance tonight. It's nice to see your smiling faces on this Sunday evening. So as Jonathan mentioned, Speechcraft has gone digital. What does that mean? Well, it means more time online, which is something that we are getting very used to during this pandemic. My presentation does have lots of details. I'd like to ask if you do have questions to put them in the chat. You can send them directly to Antoine. He will be my chat master this evening, and we'll kind of save the questions until the end. That way I can get through as much information as we can before the hour is up. And I do want this to be a bit interactive, so I'm not just regurgitating information. So be ready to take yourself off of mute so you can give some input and feedback as well. So let's talk about what Speechcraft is. Speechcraft is a blended learning program designed to provide optimal support for learners interested in building their communication and public speaking skills. The directed learning portion of Speechcraft is delivered by an experienced public speaker, usually a member of Toastmasters International. Participants learn skills to help them advance their professional and personal communication through a condensed version of the Toastmasters member experience. The sessions can be held in 4, 6, or 8 weeks, and each session should be between 1 to 2 hours in length. Participants, who are called Speechcrafters, have the opportunity to boost their confidence as they improve their communication, public speaking, and leadership skills, all within the safe environment of a Toastmasters environment. The follow-up or individual learning intended to support the in-person sessions or online, depending on how the pandemic allows, is delivered through an interactive material designed specifically for adult learners. After completing the course, Speechcrafters are hopefully be inspired to continue their Toastmasters journey by joining or visiting your club. Who can host a Speechcraft program? So in order to host a Speechcraft program, your club has to be in good standing. A prospective club is not able to host the Speechcraft program. It's also important to note that areas, divisions, and districts cannot be responsible for hosting the Speechcraft program. It has to be hosted by a club, and the member who coordinates it has to be a paid member of that club. Once you purchase your course bundle, you create an event online and register the participants so they can have access to the materials. If you're a member of multiple clubs, when you go to purchase your Speechcraft bundle, you will be asked to choose which club the program will be hosted by. Speechcraft can be hosted online, in person, only if the public health guidelines in your area allow, of course, or it can be a hybrid session, both online and in person. It's totally up to the coordinator on how to deliver the program, But it is important to note that Toastmasters International does not provide any type of online hosting such as the Zoom account. That's the responsibility of the coordinator. You'll also want to make sure that you have the support of your club members when planning to host a Speechcraft program. It's not a one-person job. You want to have the support and help of others. So as a coordinator, there are some certain qualities that you should have in order to become a coordinator. As the Speechcraft coordinator, you should have a good overall knowledge of Toastmasters and the educational program. You don't have to be an expert by any means, but it is helpful to have a good understanding so that you can share that with the participants. The coordinator should be passionate about helping others learn and grow, and you should also have the time to volunteer. As we mentioned earlier, the sessions can be held for 4, 6, or 8 weeks, and the time should be between 1 to 2 hours for each session. And you'll also want to be available to answer any participant questions outside of those times in order for the participants to have a great experience. So you want to make sure that you have time to volunteer. Can you think of any other qualities that a Speechcraft program coordinator should have? You can take yourself off mute and shout it out.
Patience.
Patience. Yes, that's a great one, Heather. Why would you want to have patience?
Considering the amount of trouble people have on pathways already, I can imagine this is probably close to that experience. So patience would be a virtue, I think.
Definitely.
Also having a team behind you. You've got to make sure you've got a solid team to go into this.
That is definitely super important, Catherine. This is not a program that you want to host all alone because you will be burned out and it may not be the best experience for your participants. And the goal is to help the people that are signed up for the program to learn and grow and have a great experience. So in order to deliver the best experience, you want to make sure that you have help with that. So thank you.
Flexibility is
Anyone
another
else?
one. Flexibility?
Yes. Yes, Norma. Things don't always go as planned, as we know, right? Especially with technology. So it's important to have flexibility. And with that comes patience as well. Anyone else? Okay, great. So what does the digital experience look like? As you can see from this slide here, this is for the coordinator. This is what you will see when you log into the gateway for Speechcraft. So Toastmasters International has created a digital version of Speechcraft to better align with the Pathways learning experience. The Speechcraft gateway is where all the materials can be found. Currently, the materials are only in English because Toastmasters is looking for feedback on the current materials, and then we'll tweak and improve the experience as we go, and then they will offer in more languages. As a coordinator, you can earn credit in Pathways for being the host of the program. And as a participant, you can also earn credit in Pathways when you decide to join a club after you've completed the program. So the website to get to the Speechcraft is listed on the slide here, speechcraft.toastmasters.org. You can log on there and you can get a little bit of more information before you actually sign up and purchase the bundle. The important part is that all the information is accessed online. As the coordinator, you will be responsible for setting up an event on the Speechcraft portal. The events need to be scheduled, so there is a specific start time, day, and a specific end time, day. You need to make sure that you keep the information current and up to date. As a participant, Speechcrafters can see the name and contact information of the coordinator so they can easily contact them if they need assistance. For each Speechcraft event, there are a maximum of 5 participants. If you have more than 5 attendees in your Speechcraft program, you do have to purchase an additional bundle and add another event on the portal. You can host events at the same time, or you can have them at different times. It depends on how you want to run your program. Once your event ends, 90 days after that end date, participants will have access to the materials. After those 90 days, they will not be able to access their materials anymore. So it's very important that they print any certificates and things that they want from their Basecamp before the 90 days ends. As the host of the Speechcraft program, you are responsible for registering your attendees. You register them on the Speechcraft Gateway portal, and you'll see on the left over here, you have the name of the participant and their email. Once you've added them into the portal, they will get an email with instructions on how to set up their login. Once they've followed the instructions, the participant status in your portal will change. It will go from a pending registration, as it is here, to a registered attendee. So our Pathways Basecamp and our Speechcraft Basecamp are 2 different portals, but they have the same look and feel so that they're more aligned to the Pathways experience. When looking at the content of Speechcraft, you'll notice that there are the same number of speeches available in the digital experience versus the traditional experience. So up here, you'll see this is the digital experience. So you have introduction, organize your speech, prepare to present, giving and receiving feedback, body language, vocal variety, and apply what you've learned. The traditional program is over here, so very similar. And then the speech topics are at the bottom here. They're similar, but there is a lot more flexibility for the Speechcraft or online materials. So people can choose any topic, but each topic does have a focus on a certain aspect. The difference between the Speechcraft online digital experience and the traditional experience is there's more emphasis on mentoring opportunities with guides for each Speechcrafter. And the biggest content change focuses around greater emphasis on applying feedback, because we know that when we have feedback, that is how we can improve, by taking that feedback and implementing it. So this is what your logon portal for a coordinator looks like. You'll see it looks similar to our Basecamp. Over to the right-hand side here, we have different aspects. So you have the introduction to Speechcraft, planning, resources such as agendas and outlines and evaluations. You have access to the Speechcrafter learning, and then there's different dashboards. With the dashboards, you will be able to access and monitor the progress of each Speechcrafter. You will also have to act as similar to a Basecamp manager, where you have to validate each speech. And when you do so, the Speechcrafters will receive badges just like we do in Basecamp. So it's a great tool to track the progress of each of your participants. So what are the benefits for a Speechcrafter to participate in this program? Throughout the Speechcraft program, participants will learn several skills that they can translate to their jobs and their lives. Like our club environment, the Speechcraft program offers attendees a safe place to learn and get constructive feedback for improvement. As a Speechcraft program as a speech crafter completes the projects, they can earn credit towards pathways once they join a club. So if you look at the slide here to the right, you'll see if they complete 3 speeches, that gives them completion of the icebreaker, the research and presenting, and also the evaluation and feedback project. If they happen to complete 7 speeches, that gives them completion of level 1, the intro to Toastmasters mentoring, and 2 level 3 electives. So it's a great incentive for people to actually join your Toastmasters club after they've completed the Speechcraft program, because it's like they already have a head start once they join Pathways, because they do have the credit from their Speechcraft program. So looking at Speechcraft, how can it benefit your club, and why would you want to host one other than because you're passionate about helping others and you want to learn patience and you want to practice being flexible? Well, Speechcraft can be used as a membership building tool. We want to recruit people to attend and participate in Speechcraft, and then encourage and entice them to join our club. When they come to a Speechcraft program, this gives them a small taste of what it's like to be in a club. And you can share the benefits of Toastmasters and how it can help them in their own lives. You can also use a Speechcraft program as a means for raising funds for the club. To do this, you'd be purchasing the bundle for $50 US, and then you would be charging each of your participants a certain amount. We will get into more details as we go through the slideshow about what you can and cannot charge for the participation of being in a Speechcraft program. That is such a long title when you have to say it over and over in a presentation. I'm getting tongue-tied a little. So when we're looking at how else Speechcraft can benefit your club, this will help increase the awareness of your club in your community, because where are you going to find people to participate in your Speechcraft program? Well, you're going to want to reach out to people in your community, so you're going to advertise. So this will help increase the awareness of your club. And another benefit for your club is that it will be a project for one of your club members. The person that hosts it will get credit towards their Distinguished Toastmaster designation in Pathways. And I'm sure that the others that are helping could also put their role towards one of their projects in one of their pathways. So it's a great opportunity for many people to work on their own educational journey. So I've enticed you, I've gained interest, you want to join, you want to host a Speechcraft program. How are you going to do that? Well, you need to decide in your club who's going to be the coordinator. So once that person has been decided upon, they will purchase the bundle from the Toastmasters International website. As mentioned earlier, it does cost $50 US. That gives you access for 5 participants. If you happen to have more than 5 people that want to attend your Speechcraft program, then you do need to purchase an additional bundle. Say you only have 4 people attending, that 5th spot does not carry over, which is unfortunate, but you don't get to count that on another. Oh, I think I just did something. Can you see all my slides now, or is it just me? There we go. Sorry about that. Pushed a button. So sorry. When you only have 4 people, you don't get to carry over that 5th spot. So you do want to try to recruit 5 people per bundle. So in the bundles, you will receive a variety of things: the coordinator guide, specific logins. You'll get the digital learning for 5 speech crafters. You'll get digital materials. You'll get flyers, marketing materials, printable resources to help you plan and organize your event. And information and materials to promote your event. So that $50 is worth it for all the materials that you do get in order to promote your Speechcraft program. So when we're looking at the cost of Speechcraft, what can we charge people, or what is Toastmasters International recommending? It is up to the coordinator and or the club members on whether or not to charge the Speechcrafter to participate in the program. If the club wants to absorb the fees and use it as a marketing strategy, this is acceptable. If you decide that you want to charge Speechcrafters to participate, Toastmasters International does have some rules. You cannot charge more than 12 months dues, which would give your club a positive return on investment. They're recommending that you could charge $45 US for 6 months dues for the program, and then have the $20 US fee for the new member if they want to join your club. So if a participant comes and they want to only participate in the Speechcraft program and not join your club after, you could just charge $45. If they want to join your club after, then you would add the $20 for the new member fee. That also gives them their first path. If you want to break even, you just charge the minimal fee in order to break even. So if it's $50 and you have 5 participants, then you could charge them $15 each. So that way it covers the cost of the bundle and any other administrative costs that you may have, such as printing or a Zoom account or anything like that. Important to note that policy 8.2 does give more details about how much and what you can charge for a Speechcraft program per participant. So it's important to read those facts before you do start promoting the cost of your Speechcraft program. So as I mentioned earlier, there are promotional materials that are available once you have purchased your bundle, and this is one of the examples. This would be for the pre-selling. So before you've recruited all of your people, it talks about why they may want to join the Speechcraft program. Perhaps they're preparing for a job interview or an important presentation at work, or they're going to be giving, oh, my things keeps hitting the slides, or they're giving a speech at a wedding perhaps. Toastmasters International is also working on a promotional video that we'll be releasing soon that will help us promote our Speechcraft programs. Unfortunately, you cannot access these promotional materials until you have downloaded and purchased and downloaded the bundle. So who should I recruit for a Speechcraft program? A couple of examples may be past guests that came to your club but haven't joined yet, people that you work with. If any of your friends are searching for a job, this would be a great opportunity for them to join because they could learn some skills about applying for jobs and having interviews. Maybe you're working with your local Rotary clubs. You haven't actually had any of their members join yet, but you could offer a Speechcraft program that has a short time commitment, but would be beneficial for them. It's also important to note that Speechcraft is only designed for adults at 18 plus at this time. So if you do have someone who's under 18, this Speechcraft program is not designed for them. Can you think of other people who we should be recruiting for a Speechcraft program? Don't be shy to unmute yourself and shout it out.
You know, I can
Jonathan,
think of one of, I'm thinking, at least where I live, and I think all throughout the provinces and the states, people are running for election and they're often piss poor speakers. And if you were charging them $45, they would get a fabulous training and learn to be better politicians or better speakers as candidates for offices.
That's a great example because when you hear people talk in, politics, who here
They're pretty
counts their
awesome.
ums and ahs?
Oh my heavens.
Who counts their ums and ahs?
And
I definitely do. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes, Albert?
some people are really awesome, and I don't mean awesome. And a lot of our politicians are like that, can be like that. And I think, especially if they have subtitles that pick up their uhs and ahs, it's even more.
Prevalent.
Well, I was thinking of another adjective, but we'll go with that one. Yep. Thank you.
I definitely agree. Yes, Heather?
I actually work, well, I don't work. I've been in the union for a state employees union for 25 years now. And I plan on using Speechcraft, and I have used Speechcraft to help our union members speak more clearly as chapter presidents and leaders, as well as help them speak well at legislative meetings to help push legislation through. So it's been very helpful.
Oh, that's a great idea, Heather. Thanks for sharing that. Definitely. We know when the ums and ahs are eliminated, people sound more sophisticated, and they definitely, we tend to think that they are confident in what they're presenting and what they're sharing. Anyone else? Who else are we inviting to a Speechcraft program?
Volunteers in any local organization.
Yeah, that's great. Norma, do you have any examples that come to mind?
We have a local Women's Institute group in my community. We have a seniors group in my community. And we want people to take on executive roles, but we don't always offer the tools to support them in the executive roles. So I think the Speechcraft would be a perfect opportunity. And of course, normally we would have community school at this time of year, but all our community schools are shut down, and that's a great place to offer a Speechcraft course as well.
Yeah, definitely. Would you try to recruit people who are past members? Oh, Norma, if you're talking, you're on mute.
I'm pondering. You could see my brain twirling there. We've approached past members often. And in fact, we're going to follow up with past members now, just with a little, we're thinking about you and we'd love to see you online. But my experience has been inviting past members that we don't get such a big uptake.
Mm-hmm. My thought is perhaps, depending on what the reason past members are not current members, maybe it has to do with they don't want to do a long-term commitment, or they're unsure about pathways, technology. I would be promoting this is, we're all learning together. It's a smaller group. We're all kind of starting from scratch, and it's a shorter time commitment because you're either doing 4, 6, or 8 weeks, and maybe that would get their feet wet, to say, and they might really enjoy it and be like, hey, why did I leave Toastmasters? Any other thoughts on that? You guys are a quiet bunch today.
I've approached the pastor at my church. We had a guest pastor or a junior pastor, and I went up to him after and I said, have you ever heard of Toastmasters? I think, you'd enjoy it and it would help you with your presenting. And after I said it, I kind of said, I probably shouldn't have said that, but I did. And I'm thinking of using the Speechcraft and inviting that group just kind of putting it out there and maybe just opening that door for them. But past members, I don't think that would work. They know what Toastmasters is, so just inviting them to a Speechcraft, it's just a mini version. If they wanted to get back involved, they'd come back to the club or find another club. So I think it needs to be a new
Okay.
audience.
That's great. Thanks for your opinion, Cindy. And reaching out to a group, as Cindy is saying she's thinking of doing, is a great opportunity because people may feel more confident and more willing to join if a couple of other people from their group are doing it. It's like, hey, well, let's do it as a group together. So that's great. Well, that went quicker than I expected in terms of the actual presentation. So now I would like to ask Antoine if he has any questions from the chat box that we can start getting into.
Yeah. First question, will the slide be provided?
Yep, we will be posting the recording of this on our District 45 website, but I can also send it out by email. I
Okay.
find having the slides in my email is helpful. I can go back to them and look instead of
Okay.
watching a video. It's a lot quicker to click through the slides than watching a video and trying to find out what section of the video was what I'm looking for is.
Okay. There's a question, what if an organization has more than 5, but I think you answered the question.
So if there's more than 5 people that want to participate, then you would purchase an additional bundle. So if you have 8 people, you'd have to purchase 2 bundles, which would give you access for 10 participants. And it would be nice to try to recruit those extra 2 so that you're not missing out on the additional slots, because if you do not have 5 people in your one bundle, then that bundle slot does not carry over to another session, unfortunately.
Okay. Are there Speechcraft schedule or upcoming in which the coordinator needs help?
Within our district, is that
I'm
what
not
we're asking?
I'm not sure exactly what it means.
Whoever asked that question, if you'd like to just elaborate a little bit more.
Catherine?
I had to find the unmute button. Yeah, so basically what I was asking is, are there Speechcraft times set up or that possibly will be set up in the district in which you need other Toastmasters to help out with? That would be a good way for those not familiar with the online formatting to help without having to be in charge of it, just to learn our way around.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question, Catherine. And my understanding as of right now, I personally don't know anyone that is hosting one. Norma Passatieri did mention that one of the members from her Speakeasy Club is planning to host one. I think maybe we could talk to Jim about doing a call out and asking if there are people that are hosting Speechcraft and they need help or volunteers to assist with that, then, you know, we could make a list. And Jonathan, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. It's an excellent question, Catherine. And the suggestion, I think that perhaps Program Quality Director could set up something and have a place, and it might be through Facebook or something, but perhaps it's just through email to find out who's doing it and then provide that to everybody, not just to Speechcraft coordinators, because if you provide it across the board and then you're thinking, Catherine, well, I'm thinking of running one, and I see John Smith over here is running one or has run one, I'm going to give him a call or an email and say, how did it work out for you? And then when you're all working on them, you're saying, this came up, we had this question here. And because it's a new experience for us being digital, and it sounds a little bit different than the traditional program, I think having that support community among people would be something that we can not only think of doing, but we can do it. I don't think we had the capacity to do this necessarily 2 years ago. But in the last 14 months, 13 months here, we've all become so integrated and so used to overcoming long distances and not seeing anybody face to face that I think the opportunity is definitely there for setting up something like that. And I would really think that's a great thing to do, to set that up, because if we want to encourage this, and I have to say this presentation, when Crystal was talking about people you could invite, and my mind was like up here and here, and I didn't want to hog the conversation, which I'm doing now. But I think that there are so many opportunities in this, and I love that idea. For example, charge them $45 for the course. They're through a level 1 at the end of it, plus 2 of the level 3 electives, and then you charge them $20 to become a member. That's brilliant. So that I went beyond answering the question, but I do think that that's a terrific idea of having a support group there. And you can see, I think people who know me know I'm not excitable. I saw this and I'm actually quite passionate about it.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up, Catherine. We will we'll talk with Jim and relay the suggestion and see what we can do, especially because it is so new. Toastmasters, I think I attended this webinar, it was in February, so the digital experience is very new, and I haven't heard of anyone in our district run one yet, but that's how we'll learn together and find best practices, what worked for people that are hosting it, you know, what are the challenges and how we can overcome those together. So whether it's maybe there's some kind of Facebook group, or, you know, Jim will work with Jim and figure something out. So thanks for bringing that up. Antoine, any other questions in the chat?
Yeah. Does all members involved in organizing the event will have access to the online materials?
My understanding is that the one coordinator has access to the materials, and then the 5 participants. So the coordinator should be able to print stuff from their base camp, but I haven't purchased it or created an event yet. So that's as far as I can answer that question. So more to come on that one for sure. Are there other ones, Antoine?
Yeah. Are prints still available if program is run in person?
That's a good question. It wasn't asked on the webinar, and it wasn't relayed whether if you could, like for pathways, if we didn't want to access the materials online, we could request a printed version for a fee. That wasn't discussed as of yet. So that's a question for me to follow up on, and I can get back to you.
Crystal?
Yes, Heather? I think that's Heather. Yep.
You mentioned earlier when you were comparing the old and the new, that the new Speechcraft was emphasizing the evaluation process. Did they explain how they were emphasizing that more than they did in the old version?
Let me just take a look here. I printed a couple things so I could make sure to have more materials for questions. So if you just bear with me.
I do have to admit, I've taught 4 or 5 Speechcrafts, and the evaluation process was kind of late in the game, the third meeting. So I was just wondering if they automatically go into that from the get-go, or how are they handling that?
I'm just looking at the program and the projects. So there's where we have the give and give and receive feedback project. It's the evaluate one, where you give a speech, you get evaluated, you take that evaluation and you apply it to the second speech, and then you also evaluate someone else's speech. There's one similar to that, where it focuses on how to receive an evaluation and how to share a supportive, effective feedback to others. And that is the second one. And then for each project, just like we have in Pathways, where we assess our skills at the beginning, and then we assess them again to see if our thoughts have changed on our skills, each speech crafter has that as well. And then there is a project that specifically looks at evaluating. So you review a speech and deliver feedback using the evaluation materials from Toastmasters, and learners who complete this project gain insight and practice completing an evaluation and providing professional and supportive feedback. So
Excellent. Thank you.
there definitely is more opportunities for the feedback part, which is how we improve. When we hear where and what we can improve on, then we can implement it, right? If we don't know, no one shares that information, then we're not able to as easily see that ourselves. I hope that somewhat answered your question, Heather.
No, it did. Thank you very much.
If we don't know,
You're
how
welcome.
can we grow?
Yes, Albert, that is exactly it.
Okay, there's another one. How does a fellow Toastmaster understand the Speechcraft program? There is nothing for them to see online.
Can you read that again, please, Antoine?
Yeah. How does a fellow Toastmaster understand the Speechcraft program if there is nothing for them to see online?
Like they have access to online, they can use online, but they haven't purchased it. And is that what the question is around? So you can't see the information until you purchase it? Or is it they don't have access and they don't want to access
Before, we
online?
used to get a coordinator book, an extra book for helpers. I think it's about helpers, how they're going to do it, to know all the information. I think, yeah.
That is a good question, and one that I cannot answer, but I definitely will follow up with the Speechcraft education program people at TI, and I can share that feedback once I do get it.
Other question, have they thought about groups which don't have internet access, such as it is in our prisons?
Oh, that's a good question. And that is another question that unfortunately I can't answer, but I will bring to the team and ask. So I'm just writing notes here for myself. Keep them coming, Antoine. These are great, and things for me to take back and find out and then share later as well.
Are the coordinator the same as the organizer? That's two different people?
So the coordinator and or organizer would be the same person. The kind of the host or the lead, they're the person that has access to the online event where you will add the participants and you will have access to monitor, track, and validate their speeches as they go through the program. And you'll be the person that has access to all the materials to prepare and plan and execute the Speechcraft program. So the coordinator or the host, that would be the same person.
Okay. That's all from the chat.
Okay. Well, feel free to unmute and let me know if you have comments or questions.
May I
Norma,
ask
yes.
And you perhaps covered this and I just didn't pick up on it. So let's say I order a Speechcraft kit, I have to go online to activate it. is there a certain period of time? I know you mentioned that after 90 days at the end of the program that the participants won't have access to their materials anymore. But from the time, let's say I activated on April 15th, am I required then to complete the program within those 90 days, or do I have some flexibility?
That's a great question, Norma. So once you purchase the bundle, my understanding is that there's no time frame within which you have to host the event. You would go onto your Speechcraft portal and you would create an event and put in the dates of when you want to host it. So if you purchased it April 1st and you weren't actually hosting it until September, you just want to make sure that you have the dates in there correct and up to date. If it changes, then you want to log in and change those dates so that it is listed as an event and the date and time is correct. And the key point that they covered in the webinar was the fact that after those, if the event ends on March 31st, 90 days after that, you will not have access to the information anymore. But they didn't say anything about purchasing it and then having only a certain amount of time before you host it. So my understanding is that it's wide open as long as you make sure you just put in an event, register your event with the correct date, time, and update if changes are needed.
Thank you.
Do you have
You're
time
welcome.
to do a screen share and just do a live demo on showing where on the Toastmasters website you go to log in and what the process,
Sure.
what that all looks like?
I'm going to stop sharing here for a second. That's a great question, Catherine. Thanks. Let me just get logged in here. You know, when you're waiting for it to log in, it's always right slow. It's like watching water boil, right?
You took the words out of my mouth. Or plants growing.
Yes. And Toastmasters International does have some materials on Speechcraft that you can download. So go back to my screen sharing. So you'll see here the Speechcraft program. I've logged in. I just went to the search and typed in Speechcraft. So you can see here the webinar that I watched multiple times to get the information for today. Here you just click watch now. It'll ask you to provide some personal information, your address, your phone number, your email, etc., and then it will give you access to it. And if you're ready to buy the digital bundle, you just click here and it gives you a little blurb about what it is, and you purchase it for the $50. You just add it to your cart. Then if we go back, I'm going to stop sharing for a second because we have some materials that we can download. I do find that materials on Toastmasters International sometimes can be difficult to find, but there's lots to download for the materials. So I'm just finding that, if you give me 1 second. So is anyone here thinking that they want to host a Speechcraft program? And you can shout it because I'm not looking at my screen to see your hands or your head shaking. So feel free to shout out if you're planning to host one or would like to host one.
I think our club will at some point. I'm just not sure when right now.
I've been asked for a while since Spellbinders came on board that they wanted me to do one at the Union Hall to kind of get people interested in the new club. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. The Breakfast Club, which is my home club, I do want to host one. I want to use it as my pathways to get my DTM credit, my Distinguished Toastmaster designation. So as I mentioned earlier, I hope to plan one coming for September. I think over the summer, a lot of people, hopefully restrictions are not as strict and there's a lot more movement. So I'm going to not be stuck in front of my computer every day. I'll be hanging out at the beach instead. So September, things we get back into a groove, and that's when I'm hoping to host one. My computer's wonky a little bit, but can you see some of the resources in the resource library for Speechcraft on the screen?
So these are all downloadable now, so we can actually look at these
Yes.
without ordering anything. Cool.
You can look at these now. I'm going to actually, how about I just copy this and put it in the chat? If I can find the chat. When you're sharing, all the screens and stuff are weird. So feel free to bookmark this page if you want to learn more, but there's overviews of the credits, and each of the project goes into a little bit more detail about the projects. And then there's a quick start guide for the coordinator and for the participant. So you can just click on view form and up it comes. So this will give you some more detail as well. And feel free to watch the webinar. It's about 50 minutes. There's a lot of Q&A at the end of it. So that's where you'll get some great information. People were asking questions at the end and they were answering them right online. So I do encourage you to watch the webinar to get some more details that weren't provided in this slideshow today. So as we keep exploring the digital experience, it's something new, but if any of you are interested in hosting it and want assistance, reach out to me and I'll be looking at hosting it in September. So if I'm looking for volunteers, maybe I'll do a call out to a couple of you that are interested in assisting, and we can learn together. Any other comments before we close? It's about 6 minutes before the hour. It's been a pleasure spending this evening with you and learning together. I'm excited for the Speechcraft program.
I
and to share
appreciate you taking the time to do this. And I also want to compliment you on your rhythm on how you presented it. You weren't going too fast, you weren't going too slow. You responded well to the questions. It's very much appreciated.
Oh, thank you for your kind words, Catherine. I appreciate that. It's the questions that you don't know the answers to. You're like, you know what? I don't know. I'm not the expert either, but I'll find out the answers and I'll definitely share them.
Yeah.
A parking lot.
Yes, the famous parking lot. As long as they're not parked too long, right, Albert?
Correct.
I'll
And
be
they're in
sending
neutral.
I'll send an email to the program, the Speechcraft program people tonight, and it does take a few days for them to reply, but once I hear back, I will share the information. So if there's no other questions, you're I appreciate your time this evening, and if I can be of help with anything, please reach out, and we will connect with Jim about a wider District 45 Speechcraft and who's hosting, and the who's who of doing what, and we'll keep you all posted. So enjoy your evening, and thanks very much for coming.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Crystal.
Crystal.
Thank you,
you, Crystal.
Crystal.
You're
Well
welcome.
done.
Thanks, Crystal. Good night, all.
Good night.
Good
Good night.
evening.
Bye.
I'll stop the recording.